Dr. Carter here. Welcome to Syracuse, Kansas. We're only a hop, skip, and a jump from Colorado border right here in the very western part of Kansas, the Arkansas River Valley behind me. Now, the big reason people come here now is that people like to go cruising in the Syracuse dunes. These undulating, beautiful little hills that you see with all sorts of beautiful colors, manner of wildflower and other things like that. Oh, some sunflowers. This is the sunflower state after all. They wonder, wait, where are the actual dunes? Great question. So what you're looking at here is a story of sediment transport, climate change, and also a little bit of a story of groundwater as well. So the first part of the story begins with looking at these dunes. So these formed during the last ice age. During the last ice age, all that ice atop the Rockies and elsewhere caused weather systems that normally deliver a little bit of moisture this area gets to go well to the south. This area is substantially drier, colder. There's a lot less roots to hold this stuff in place. And as a result, you had the winds, which were very strong back then too, blew this sand all over the place. Now, where did this sand come from? Sand all came from the Arkansas River. There was still water flowing through here. There would still be summer, melt seasons. The water of the Arkansas River would leave behind sand. The river would dry up during certain times of the year. And the prevailing winds at this time blew the sand from the Arkansas River. In fact, you can see them blowing this way right now. Across forming this beautiful little dune field here. In fact, this is actually the largest dune field in Kansas right here. Kansas. Now the other story here is I just want to point out, I always like to tell people that whenever you see a bunch of dead or dying trees, that is telling you about some important shift in the environment and that there's something happening at the roots. What I think is happening here is this river is fed from snowfall in the Rockies, which there's been less and less of on an average year. Some years have still been quite snowy, but it's been much less, and those are becoming more frequent. But also groundwater. We're actually at a relative low point. In fact, just up this river is probably what I would wager is the lowest point in the state of Colorado. Just a sec, trucks passing. So, and water that percolates in the soil ends up going into some of the various aquifers. So around here, I'm not sure if it's exactly precisely right here, beneath us is the Ogallala, one of the world's largest groundwater systems. Indeed, one of the reasons you see so much agriculture in this part of Kansas that's otherwise fairly dry, though certainly not ice age dry, is that they're able to extract water from all that water that comes off the Rockies, fills up the aquifer, and other existing waters to basically water their crops during the nice warm summers this region gets. Unfortunately, they've been extracting water much more rapidly than it's been replaced. So the water tables have been declining all across western Kansas, western Nebraska, western Oklahoma, west Texas. And we are seeing, as a consequence, many of the rivers that used to get some of their flow from aquifer discharge, start out basically as gaining streams maybe 150 years ago, are now steadily drying up and becoming losing streams as they lose more and more of the water to the aquifer. Now, we did cross the Arkansas River a couple miles back, and there was water in it, but you look at the riverbed, it clearly used to have a lot more water in it. And we're definitely not seeing that. And so you can see a lot of these trees, if you get a botanist out here, are tapping into some of the groundwater. As the water table falls, there's no longer water for those sycamore roots to tap, and they start to dry up. Now you do see here in the sand hills themselves, and you can see it's sort of like, you see fewer dying trees in the sand, in these sandy hills themselves, the Syracuse dunes, suggesting that's not so much a shift in climate or a great dying. In fact, climate-wise, this area is getting probably on average, a little bit more precipitation than it did 50 years ago, though the variation between drought years and heavy years is becoming probably more substantial. What you're sowing, and this dune system probably constitutes a local aquifer system. You can see that the trees here are generally occupying the hollows in the dunes. There's a place where the water table would be extra close to the surface, and these trees could tap into that resource. And I guarantee if you dug down anywhere at any of the low spots of these dunes, the aquifer would be within a few feet of the surface. I'm guessing this is what they call a perched aquifer, and that somewhere between here and deeper aquifers is some layer of limited permeability. And so it's just sort of like things to think about as you stare at this landscape. I always like to remind people that the high plains have plenty of stuff. You just gotta know where to look and how to spot and recognize it. So that's all we got for the spot. Thanks, everyone.